What's up, guys? My name is Elias, and Scream 7 is officially in theaters, which means it's time to rank every single movie in the franchise from the absolute worst to the absolute best. Let's get it!
What's your favorite scary movie?
In last place is 2000's Scream 3. Now, this is a movie that I think has more pros than cons, but is still somehow the one I'm willing to watch the least. I would much rather watch the scary movie movies because at least those are good parodies. Now, I do love the Hollywood cast of Stab interacting with the OG cast of Scream, and I do love that this movie dives into the emotional trauma and baggage that Sydney has from the first two movies. Once it's revealed that Roman is her half brother as well as the killer of the entire movie, and to my knowledge, he is the only one who's ever been a solo killer in this franchise. It does get pretty good, especially with the brother sister scuffle that they end up having, and they're just kind of trading blow for blow. But other than that, this is just kind of the most lackluster of the Screams, for me at least. There are some cool kills here and there, but I just don't really feel the overcomplicated and convoluted plot, especially with Sydney's mother has been in Hollywood and she, unfortunately got taken advantage of and then had a kid, Roman, and Roman is the first time we're hearing about her possibly be having a half brother or whatever. And then it just kind of goes off in a little bit of a this is the epic third movie in the trilogy, so we kind of need to go out with a bang. That's just kind of how it felt, and it just felt a little forced. Also, one last gripe I have is that Ghostface somehow has the voice modulator that can disguise his voice to be anybody he wants in the year 2000. Like, it would be more plausible even in Scream 4 or 5 when it was 2011 and 2022 respectively, because that's more of the digital age. But this was the year 2000. I don't think you would have had that tech. And maybe I'm reading into it as just a nitpick, but at the same time, I gotta rank them, right? Coming in at number 6, and this is sure to ruffle some feathers, is 1997's Scream 2. Now, this is a movie that, while it is a beloved sequel by the fans, I can't exactly articulate why it's so low on my list, except to say that I have fonder memories of watching the other ones that are above it, and that it's basically just the first Scream, but in college. To me, it's a solid and safe sequel that does happen to tackle what it's like to try and move on from the events of the first film. And I think I'd give it the ultimate edge above Scream 3 because of that opening sequence with Jada Pinkett where she dies in the movie theater. I just think it's made more famous and more entertaining to me because of the scary movie parody that happened in 2000. But if I'm being honest, it really is just a run of the mill addition to the franchise. It's totally watchable, and there is a surprise plot twist with who the killer is regarding Billy's mom being one of them. I already kind of knew it was Timothy Oliphant's character Mickey because it was just kind of too obvious in a sense. But it is kind of disheartening that Jerry O'Connell's character had to die, which was Sydney's boyfriend. It did make it seem like he could have been the second killer, and he wasn't at the end. So it was like kind of heart wrenching in that sense. But something that just bothered me a little bit here was that final act. Why are these villains just monologuing left and right when they have Sydney dead to rights and they can just kill her? And this is literally the second time this is happening that Sydney could have just easily been killed. And they're like, let's just monologue about everything. And I get it. This is literally a meta commentary franchise on horror tropes. At the same time, it doesn't make sense when you're watching the movie, especially if you don't know anything else about the franchise. You're just watching the movie for what it is, and you're just like, why is this person just constantly talking when they have a gun literally pointed to her head? It just it's just stuff that's like kind of frustrating to me. That's all. Bringing in my top 5 though is sure to be a hot take, but I got the brand new Scream 7. Let me be clear why Scream 7 is officially above 2 and 3. This is one of the best movie theater experiences that I have had in a while. And that's all in thanks to my mom that I brought along with me, who really felt like she was in the movie. She freaked out in terror, fought the air, and yelled at every single character and their stupidity throughout the whole entire runtime. But this in turn prompted everyone else in the theater to laugh and react with her. And that was just such a wholesome moment for me watching this movie. Definitely super biased. Sorry, not sorry on this one. I'll admit though, I'm glad I didn't read any reviews about this movie because I feel like it would have just skewed my opinion completely. Because watching it as just another addition to the Scream franchise, I thought it was just enjoyable. It had some creative kills, some genuine suspense throughout. leaving you to be like, who is the killer? You know, who's gonna die next? You know, stuff like that. And that's kind of what I watch these movies for. That being said, there are some left field and convoluted plot twists regarding who it is that actually ends up being the killer and their motivations as well. And while this franchise still seems to have some steam, I really do think the smart move here would be to end Sydney's story with this movie. I'm in the camp of let's bring Sam and Tara back, Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. And if you still really want to have a connection to Sydney, just have her daughter now be in place of Sydney and she has to do their story. This seventh movie, 30 years after the original, is getting beaten up by critics and it's not really doing great numbers at the box office. But I think that it is still an enjoyable movie. It just really needs to do something fresh next time around. At number 4, I got Scream 4. This was Wes Craven's final film before he passed, and it was a proper return to form for the entire franchise. Not only did Wes Craven make sure to evolve the characters from the original trilogy, but he also cemented Sydney's relevance in the franchise with these newcomer characters and how their individual motivations have to do with Sydney's current circumstances in this new digital age. And it essentially plays like a homage to the first one with meta commentary on meta commentary, essentially. But if I had to articulate some kind of negative for it, because I really did enjoy this movie, it's just not quite like a great film, is simply because the killers to me this time around were pretty obvious. And once it's revealed that one of them is Emma Roberts, I was like, yeah, of course it's Emma Roberts. She was way too innocent throughout the entire movie. But I do love how unhinged she was, willing to do whatever it took to become the main character of the franchise, and essentially that backfiring on her, but just the way that she like did it. She was throwing herself through walls, she was cutting herself, she was doing all types of crazy stuff just to make it seem like she was the victim. And then it's just a crazy last like 5 to 10 minutes of the movie when everything just kind of goes, oh no, she's the killer, and they got to stop her and all that. So I thought that was really cool. I thought that was done very well, and it does rival the first in the sense of it kind of plays like a new classic. And for people who aren't even fans of this franchise or haven't really seen any of the movies, it's a great jumping off point to get into it. Bringing in our top 3, I got Scream 5. To me, this was just a genuinely exciting meta commentary on prequels, sequels, reboots, remakes. And I think it makes the most out of having a brand new cast of legacy characters share the spotlight with the OGs. There are some cool enough plot twists, some of them a little bit predictable, but the way these creative kills and the way just the killers themselves are handled so brutally just makes this one really stand out and pop among the franchise. Sam and Tara, aka Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, are great additions to this franchise. And I love how Tara is the seemingly more innocent sister, with Sam being this low key, psychotic kind of person where she starts hallucinating about her father, her biological father, with which you find out ends up being Billy. And I really love how it just kind of dives into trauma, grief, and really kind of dealing with these are real life stakes, real people are at risk, and you never know who was the killer throughout. And the fact that they made this for Wes Craven was such a beautiful sentiment, because it really did feel like the franchise was safe enough without him at the helm, but never forget where they came from. If I did had to articulate a negative for this one, because again, from Scream 4 up is pretty much, movies that I really enjoy, it's that my man Dewey bites the dust. He was my favorite character throughout this entire franchise. And he did go out, excuse my language, like a badass. Just the way that he's walking through the hallway and he's, unloading his gun and reloading it so that way he could pop the new ghost face in the head. But then he just, he gets stabbed because of a phone call and blah, blah, blah. And it was just crazy. And it's still gut wrenching. And the emotion that you feel with him and Gail when they first reunite some minutes before that scene is just like, it really choked me up a little bit and it got me emotional. And I was like, wow, I'm really feeling this for a Scream movie. Like, that's crazy. But it's because I had grown so attached to these characters, and Dewey especially. He's the best. I like the movie. It's just hard for me to watch that part, I guess. Coming in at number 2 really surprised me. And that's because this was a first time watch for me. But I got 2023's Scream 6. To me, this was an exciting New York infused solo outing with brutal Mortal Kombat like fatalities that proved the franchise could survive without Sydney. There's some wild plot twists. I kind of pegged two of them, but there's a third one that I was like, oh, so that happened. Okay. And the reason I'm being kind of vague is because it's the most recent one, so I don't want to spoil too much, especially if you haven't already watched my in-depth review on my page. But there was also some amazing cinematography here because the movie just looks beautiful. There's some great shots in there, some terrifying ones, some really intimate ones, some intense ones, some somber ones. Like throughout the entire movie, most of the shots are basically just, wallpaper worthy. This one also tackled themes of grief and trauma. And to my knowledge, this is also the first Scream that had three killers in it. That's wild. Again, they were kind of obvious, especially because one of them plays it really over the top from the get go. But the only actual negative I might have, and it's not like it took me out of the movie, but it's Hayden Panettiere's character, who she's now an FBI agent who's trying to be this tough as nails, no nonsense cop. And I don't really buy it from her. But that's really it. This movie is just great and it's enjoyable from start to finish. And I like that it has very loose connections to the rest of the franchise because it could just stand on its own. And I'm upset that Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega has beef with Paramount now because I feel like I would love to follow their journey and have them be this like sister duo, killer duo that are after other serial killers, if anything. I think that would be really, really cool. But I'm not in Hollywood. I'm not writing this stuff. So, but of course, at number one, could it be anything else? It's 1996's Scream. This is just an absolute classic, and it saved the horror genre in the 90s as we know it. It also doubles as the gold standard for horror films as it flips the whole entire genre on its head, oozing with meta commentary and fresh twists on horror tropes. But yeah, this is the one that started it all. I mean, and it still holds up to this day. 30 years later, 7 movies in. And even though Stu and Billy being the killers was probably the most obvious thing in the entire movie, Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard play them so well that it's just like, I don't even care that I knew you guys were the killers from the jump. I enjoy this whole entire scene you guys got going on where you're trying to stab each other and make yourselves look like the victims. Like I thought that was just really really cool and really funny, and there's a lot of funny moments in this movie as well, especially with Jamie Kennedy's Randy. I can't help but see Scary Movie like the parody movies, the spoofs, uh, while watching this movie. But at the same time, it doesn't take away from my enjoyment. It only makes me like it even more, if anything, because I just remember what they were parodying. But as a movie in itself, it's just a dope, fun time that it kind of needs to be seen by every cinephile just to understand why Wes Craven was in his bag in the 90s. And of course, I had to mention the iconic opening with Drew Barrymore, easily the most iconic throughout the franchise, the most quoted, the most remembered, nostalgic, whatever you want to say. This was a movie that simply put horror movies back on the map. And I'm super glad that it exists because now I get to talk about all of them. But that's all I have for you guys. So if you like this video, remember to hit that like button and get in my comments with your ranking of the entire Scream franchise. Check out my in-depth reviews for each movie on my page and make sure you send this to someone so they can join in on the conversation too. But until next time, guys, take care and God bless.